Hello, we are still waiting for all participants to join us and also on Facebook. So give us 1 minute, please. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I suggest we start now while people are still joining us because we have only 1 hour and I suggest we do not lose any more time. Basically, today is the third in the series of public events about Ukraine organized under Ukrainian think tank Liaison office in Brussels. Today's event is co-organized by the Institute for Economic Research and Policy Consulting and the Liaison office, and we will discuss business climate in Ukraine in vulnerable times. Ukraine is at war, and those of you who are in Ukraine feel that every day, especially every night, which is usually very loud and not very safe. But still, as we discussed over these 3 years multiple times, the war per se did not stop anything. It stopped some for people who are very badly hurt, but in general, the country is going on. The businesses continue operating if they can, adjusting, finding new ways, becoming more resilient and facing new problems. And the war is just one more dimension that has to be taken into account. Other dimensions include very important European integration, in this the review of many regulations and basically all aspects of Ukrainian life, as we all sincerely expect that in 5 years, in 2030, as like projected, the country will become the EU member. It means a lot of changes and a lot of work every day without waiting for the end of the war, without even waiting for ceasefire. At the same time, business has did a tremendous job adapting to the challenges, but still it requires support from the state, it requires attention to the problems, it requires better regulation, and all these aspects, the challenges, opportunities, new risks, old risks, all of that we will discuss today. But before that, I am absolutely happy to pass the floor to Galyna Pastukh, head of the board of the Ukrainian think tank Liaison office in Brussels, for welcoming remarks. Galyna, the floor is yours. We cannot hear you.
Sorry. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Veronica, for passing the floor. And ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, colleagues, and friends, I'm happy to welcome you today to our event. And it's an honor for me to welcome you to all this important discussion on the business climate in Ukraine during vulnerable times, as we examine the challenges, opportunities, and security concerns that shape the economic landscape today. So Ukraine currently is facing ongoing geopolitical situation, economic fluctuations, and security threats. And both it has a great influence for opening new businesses in Ukraine, for investors, for policymakers, and for us in Ukraine. Understanding this dynamic is not crucial. It's not just crucial for Ukrainians' economic resilience, but also for the global markets and regional stability. So why this topic is important? The business environment in any country is deeply connected with its political, economic, and security conditions. In Ukraine, we have this external aggression, internal reforms, and global economic shifts create an ever-evolving landscape in Ukraine, while challenging such as infrastructure damages, investment risk, we still have opportunities for innovation, digital transformation, and foreign investments. So what is the role of think tanks? In this time, in this uncertain time, think tanks play a great role in shaping informed policies, offering strategic insights, and guiding decision makers. So I think they serve as bridges between governments, businesses, and civil society, building a dialogue and solutions that drive sustainable economic growth and security. So as we explore today's discussion, I encourage us to think critically about the risk and rewards of doing business in Ukraine, the necessary security measures, and the innovative approaches that can help the country emerge stronger. So thank you, and I'm welcoming you to the discussion.
Galyna, thank you very much for this well-thought address. And without any further ado, I suggest we move forward in our event. And the first speaker is Marcin Vlachynsky, who is an analyst at the Institute of Economic and Social Studies in Slovak Republic. He will discuss the understanding of Bureaucratic Index and its business impact. Marcin, thank you that you are with us, and the floor is yours. I hope you are with us. Okay, I do not. Colleagues, did we lose Marcin?
Yevgen should start and maybe because Marcin is not with us now, we try to find out what is happening. But I suppose that Yevgen can start.
Yes, okay, then we move forward and we'll wait for Marcin to join us later. He was with us. I don't know what happened, but still. Then I'm happy to pass the floor to Yevgen Anhel, who is a senior research associate at the IR, and he will discuss the government policy and business performance in Ukraine. Yevgen, you are with us for sure. I see you.
I'm here, yes. Hello. I'm happy to be here today, and I'm happy to share some additional insights based on our new Rapid Enterprises survey, because this survey conducted by our team is I believe, one of the most important sources about business climate in wartime Ukraine. I just need a few seconds to put on the screen my presentation. Share screen. Yeah. Second. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Так. Опять. No, it will be okay.
Maybe you can. Okay.
Yes, it's on the screen. So And I want just to begin with, I want to remind a few things about our survey. So we started the new Rapid Enterprises survey at the beginning of the war in spring 2022. So as of today, we have a panel of around 500 enterprises, and we have already conducted 34 waves of our survey. It is very important that our enterprises represent business of all sizes, and also those enterprises are from all regions of Ukraine that are available for the study. Usually we present our results on monthly basis, and actually one of the most discussable topics is about assessments of the government's economic policy. For example, this month we had some significant changes. We had noticed some significant changes regarding the government's economic policy. Based on the results of February, we saw that the share of positive assessments is already the lowest in history. I mean, in 3 years of our study. So only 3% of enterprises chose positive assessments. At the same time, the share of negative assessments is rather high. It is higher than 20%. So the balance indicator is around 18 points. So the difference is huge. But at the same time, we can see that our enterprises, they usually choose neutral assessments, neutral marks. So usually our audience, which represents experts, policymakers, and business representatives, usually our audience asks why the share of such neutral assessments is so high, and at the same time why the share of positive assessments is low. So we decided to analyze, to go deeper into this question and to analyze what can be the reason for this. What are the causes for such a distribution of assessments? From our first hypothesis was that some policy changes or some changes regarding security situation, they can impact the assessments. So on this chart, you can see this data series regarding the answers about the government's economic policy, and you can see the blue line. The blue line represents the share of neutral assessments. So at the beginning of the war, the share of neutral assessments was around 40%, but in February, the result is very close to 70%, and actually it is the highest share of neutral assessments in 3 years. At the same time, we can see that the share of negative assessments was high at the beginning of the war. It was lower in 2023, but in autumn of 2024, it reached the record 30%. So I have a few explanations what can be the cause of such changes and such a distribution of assessments. So, for example, if you look at the beginning of the war, I believe that most businesses, they experienced some terrible challenges because of the start of the war. And we remember summer 2022, there were some issues regarding currency, about currency exchange, about fuel issue problems, fuel supply. So business, so it is highly possible that business was not happy with the situation. But then in spring 2023 and in summer 2023, the situation became better, and the share of negative assessments was low. It was around 10%. We can compare this situation, for example, with other assessments in our study. Actually, summer of 2023, it was very optimistic. Business and like average citizens, they were optimistic about the future of the war. Everyone believed in a counteroffensive, successful counteroffensive in summer. As a result, this could have impacted the assessments. But then we can see some significant changes in at the end of summer 2024 and beginning of autumn 2024. The share of negative assessments was rather high, and we believe that this is the result of talks about tax increase. So tax increase was actively discussed and it was delivered to the Verkhovna Rada in August. Then the law was adopted, and for a few months the president waited and did not sign the law. So there was some uncertainty about this situation, and I believe that these results might represent that situation. That problem. Actually, if we look at this issue from another point of view, we can see that even experts who analyze, who study business environment, they also provided some negative assessments because of that situation. For example, our institute with partners conducts monthly assessment of efforts regarding European integration, and we can see that, for example, in August 2024 was the first low assessment of government efforts towards European integration. It was only because of the introduction of the tax law, the draft tax law, draft changes to tax code, and then the second lowest result was in November 2024 when those amendments became effective. So I believe that this hypothesis works here. Also, I decided to analyze the situation regarding impediments for different groups of enterprises. My hypothesis was that enterprises who provide negative assessments, they might have a different set of impediments. So actually, the results confirmed my hypothesis. From one point of view, the list of top 3 impediments is almost the same, but it is in different order for different groups of enterprises. For example, for enterprises that chose positive assessments in February, the most important impediment is it is dangerous to work. They are also worried about rising prices and lack of personnel. Also, at the same time, enterprises with neutral assessments, they most often they talk about lack of personnel, and enterprises with negative assessments, they most actively chose rising prices. So the set of top 3 impediments is the same, but the order is different. At the same time, if we look deeper into other impediments, we can see that the list is really different. For example, enterprises that provide negative assessments, they more often, even much more often talk about lack of working capital. They talk about corruption, some logistical issues, and also unlawful demands or pressure from regulatory or law enforcement agencies. Actually, every month when we analyze the general the general list of impediments, we mention that such problems like corruption and unlawful demands from government bodies, so they are at the bottom of the list. But if we look at the list of at the set of impediments for enterprises with negative assessments, we can see that corruption and unlawful demands is really might be really a challenge for them, because the result is much higher. So I believe that this represents the situation that those businesses, they might have a bad experience in communication with government bodies. Also,
you have 2 more minutes.
2 minutes, okay. So I will be very fast. So I decided also to analyze some production indicators of different groups of enterprises, because my hypothesis was that enterprises with bad performance, they might have worse performance indicators. And actually, this is what we can see on this slide. We can see that enterprises with negative assessments, they more often decrease production and sales in comparison to the previous month. Besides, they have less optimistic expectations about the future. So, for example, if you look at the production expectations, we can see that enterprises with negative assessments, they have lower share of those respondents who expect increase. So it is 28%. But for example, at the same time, enterprises with positive assessments have a high result for this answer. It is 50%. And also, I believe that enterprises with active exporters, they also provide more positive assessments of government policy. Actually, enterprises with negative and neutral assessments, they are more likely to have problems with export recovery. So, for example, 26% of enterprises with negative assessments, they did not export in the last 12 months. But at the same time, all enterprises with positive assessments, they have had export activities in the last 12 months. So thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to answer your questions at the Q&A session.
Yeah, again, thank you. Yes, please mark all your questions and put them in chart, put them in just on paper to raise later. We'll have a Q&A session to discuss things. Now we are moving forward, and before, just what I heard from Yevgen's speech is that business that has worse production export indicators tend to assess the government performance negatively. So the question is causality. But let's move forward, and Marcin is with us, and we are moving to the discussion of bureaucracy index, because government policy, bureaucracy, regulatory environment, everything is crucial for our moving forward. Marcin, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry for my delay in the first place. I hope I didn't mix up your schedule too much. I was asked to talk a bit about the bureaucracy index, which we started at INES in Slovakia to prepare in year 2016. The reason why we started preparing the bureaucracy business index was that even before 2016, there were several international rankings of business environment, doing business probably being the most important and well-known one. And we are working a lot with the policymakers, doing things about competitiveness of Slovakia and the business environment. But the problem with these international rankings was they were really broad. They encompassed a lot of things, not only basic regulations regarding running or starting a business, but even such things like the healthcare system and the energy infrastructure and similar, which are, of course, important things when you are doing business. On the other hand, we wanted to specify or focus on the regulation regarding the everyday running of the business. So that's why we created the bureaucracy index, which focuses on a model company, small, medium enterprise, and takes a list of all the tasks the entrepreneur has to do, and goes one after another and tries to assign a time value for each of these tasks. This helped us a lot to communicate the idea of the problems related to red tape to the general public, but also to policymakers, especially during the first years, 2017, 2018. The bureaucracy index was very popular by Slovak journalists, and we tried to spread it along other partners in Europe with partial success. But there are also some problems regarding our ability to measure the red tape, and also the ability to influence the red tape destruction in Slovakia. Regarding the methodology, one of the problems is that there is a big gap between what the law says and what is the reality with businesses. We often experience that the law is very strict and has a lot of points what the entrepreneur has to fulfill. On the other hand, in field, we see that a lot of Slovak entrepreneurs go around the laws or don't fulfill them in a full way, and the state often doesn't really enforce these requirements and regulations. So one thing is to find the right measure, how to really assess the real impact of the regulation on the market. The second thing is what you are going to do with the results to influence the policymakers to improve the situation. I have to say that in the past 8 years, there have been quite reasonably cooperating Ministry of Economy in Slovakia with during various governments with various ministers at the head of the ministry who did some efforts to improve the business environment in Slovakia. There were like 4 or 5 anti-bureaucratic packages prepared by the ministry, where we cooperated with the ministry and with other stakeholders to really identify some bureaucratic burdens and to eliminate. The problems with this approach are twofold. One is that you are able to identify quite a lot of items, bureaucratic duties, and you can find ways how to diminish them or make them disappear completely. But these are often quite small, tiny steps for the business environment. At the same time, you have coming new regulations, new tax rules, new other big things which really overshadow all the effort or the small steps you did, even with the cooperation with the ministry. So you make 10, 15 small steps in the good direction, and then comes a huge change, which takes everything back, not maybe even 15, but maybe even 20 steps. So it's like fighting really the windmills, where you have to try to focus on the big wins and to stop the big pushes back. The second thing is that, and it's probably the most difficult part of what we found in our work with the government in Slovakia, is the fights in between the ministries. Because the problem is that the Ministry of Economy has directly under their control only tiny fraction of the regulation which affects businesses in Slovakia. A lot of regulation is either with the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Finance, obviously, everything tax related, partly Ministry of Health regarding the health issues, but also, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture is quite powerful in terms of some regulations, especially when it comes to producing any foodstuff, selling any foodstuff, and similar things. So you have at least 5-6 ministries which have really big influence on the business environment. It's not a single one, but the cooperation in between the ministries and mutual agreement on diminishing the red tape does not exist in this country. And it's a big problem that even when you have 1 or 2 ministries on your side trying really to make some changes, you always hit the wall of other government institutions, other government participants who, not to say don't respond to you as a think tank, they don't respond even to other ministries from their own government. So it's really a difficult fight in terms you have to engage a lot of stakeholders independently. You have to create coalitions for the change, and you cannot identify just one person or one institution which will help you to push everything through. It doesn't exist, at least in Slovakia. And third, I would say, kind of problem which comes with fighting red tape in Slovakia is that, of course, a lot of rules are based in the EU regulation, and you need to identify the gold plating in the regulation. It means that a lot of the laws where the government officials or the ministry officials says, okay, this law is coming from the EU, we can't do anything about it. Later you realize there is a lot of gold plating. So there is a lot of unnecessary additions to the original EU law made by the national government or your national ministries. But it's not that easy to understand what is gold plating, and not that easy to understand what is the original goal of the EU legislation and how you can strip it down to the bare bones so you fulfill the demands of EU on the one hand, and on the other hand you minimize the impact on the businesses. Also, we have created, we have cooperated, it was created by the ministry, quite elaborated process of analyzing new regulations coming to the parliament, where we also quantify the burden both in terms of money and any other impact it may have on the business environment. Again, the challenge is that the policymakers, especially MPs, go quite often around or very simplify their understanding of how to fulfill these requirements to analyze and assess their new regulations. Sometimes they even don't do it at all. So another problem is the cooperation, especially of MPs, who of course have the legislative initiative. They can propose any kind of law they find suitable for them or any reason for it. But the ability to force them to provide deep assessment of the impacts of their regulation is often, unfortunately, toothless. So for the future, we plan to continue with the Bureaucracy Index. This year, 2024, we renew it after a 3-year break. We slightly change the methodology from the original one. We hope to continue probably next year or maybe in 2 years, we will see. And we will try to attract more partners, because it becomes really interesting if you have 10, 15, 20 partners, so you can do a really pan-European comparison. For example, a few years ago, the Atlas network made a spin-off of the Bureaucracy Index in Latin America. There is like 7 or maybe even, or I think it's over 10 countries participating. So our goal is also to make it a pan-European index in all regards.
Martin, thank you very much for the discussion of this very interesting instrument. we are used to indices, and they are very useful. Then you especially try to compare countries, but also the dynamic of countries within time. Sometimes your words sounds maybe not reassuring, but showing that the problems that Ukraine face, for example, poor coordination between government, is not only the Ukrainian specific, it's a wider problem. Probably maybe it's in a human nature how to ensure proper cooperation, and also it highlights that the task of improving business climate, ensuring that it meets the goals of social importance but still allows business to flourish, is an important and never-ending task. And with these words, I would like to pass the floor to our next speaker, to Dmytro Boyarchuk, Executive Director of CASE Ukraine, about the role of institutions for attractive business climate. Dmytro, you have 10 minutes.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Actually, if we talk about institutions and business environment, I want to say that our key problem with creating economic growth, creating opportunities, is that doing business illegally is much cheaper and much easier in Ukraine than doing business legally. And it's a big issue, a big problem, and one of the biggest reasons why it's happening. It's because of oppressiveness of general taxation system. The burden creates, this system creates a lot of opportunities, earning opportunities for different communities like accountants, auditors, lawyers, let alone law enforcement bodies. But for entrepreneurs, it's a very destructive environment. And that's what we see on, I would say, underperformance of our economy for many years, even for decades. In your survey, in the Institute survey, I don't remember exactly the name of the survey, you compared business environment after 30 years. It was a very interesting find, and I like to use and I like to refer to is that Ukrainian businesses do not want to grow. They reach some level of development, probably to have enough of means for themselves, for their families. I don't know, to have some goods, some services, some travels, etc. And that's enough. They do not want to grow. No GDP growth, no new employment opportunities, etc. I think it's a big, very big problem, fundamental problem for our economy, that entrepreneurs which manage to become successful do not want to grow. And one of the reasons why they do not want to grow and develop is exactly the point about oppressiveness of the general taxation system. They do not want to be too much visible to the state, and it's not only about paying taxes, it's about regular, not very pleasant communication with different institutions. It's about facing some regular problems with taxations, with law enforcement bodies, including generous proposals to share your property which you have created. And you probably clearly understand that it's not very good environment for us to develop. There is a reason why this oppressive taxation system exists, and no one is doing anything with this environment. And this reason not only like a big desire for corruption in different institutions. The reason is that in the environment of non-functional law enforcement bodies, you simply cannot, or such people at the top decision makers believe they cannot manage tax collection. Because in normal environment, you usually preserve fiscal discipline via actually inevitability of punishment. If someone avoids tax payments, he or she will be inevitably punished. At least we believe that in developed countries it works properly. In Ukraine, if you manage to avoid tax payment, you are simply a rich person. No one will ever catch you, and if some law enforcement bodies will manage to catch a person who committed the crime, probably it will be like a way of sharing of the profits that the person obtained. I'm not sure I can report any big case when someone was punished for tax evasion, except for the cases which are clearly political, when a person or people, they try to play politics, for sure they have been prosecuted when power was changed. As a result, to manage this environment, fiscal authorities developed a highly oppressive system based on the presumption of guilt. Entrepreneurs are considered to be like planning tax evasion at every single step, and the system was designed in a way that an entrepreneur had to, at every this single step, to prove that there is no intention to committing tax evasion. For sure, this administration is extremely costly, and what's more, the efficiency and effectiveness of this administration is very low. We have multiple of reports from think tanks, from business ombudsman, and from the World Bank, telling that almost all cases which have been appealed to the court, they have been ruled in favor of entrepreneurs. If they decide to do this, usually they win against tax authorities, meaning that this system of management is extremely costly, but it doesn't bring a lot of funding. As far as I remember, a report of business ombudsman on tax inspections report very miserable results of extra tax collection based on those inspections. According to the recent World Bank survey, which was not very actively advertised by the Ministry of Finance, this survey was pretty much revealing, telling a lot of very unpleasant things about tax administration system. It tells that for instance, simplified taxation system, cost for businesses administration. Taxation system costs for business around 26 days per year. While those businesses, again, we are talking on average, those businesses that operate on general system, they spend more than 200 days annually to manage this tax administration. And conclusion, what we actually should do with this? Our position is the following. For sure, we should work with reforming of law enforcement agencies. It's crucial, it's important, but this road is not very fast. It will take years, decades, many decades. And we believe that the much easier, much faster, and much more efficient way to deal with this problem of oppressive general taxation system is to make it easier, more user-friendly, and more attractive for those who operate in shadow or for those who operate under simplified taxation. I think that's the main message, and that's all.
Metro, thank you very much. The user-friendly taxation system, I think it's a dream not only for Ukraine, but for everybody. because taxation is one of the heaviest burdens on management of taxation is one of heaviest burdens for most of businesses, I suspect, but I share this idea. And I also hope that the progress in law enforcement bodies will take hopefully less than decades, because it's one of the crucial elements for European integration. And we need to achieve at least some decent level of their performance. It will always be something that will and have to make better, but I hope we can move that forward, not only the user friendliness of taxation, but also the whole institutional setting up in the country. And with that, and I hope we have time to discuss it, and I don't want to steal more. I want to pass the floor to Oksana Kuzakiev, the Executive Director of IR, with her presentation about security and business behavior. Oksana, you have 10 minutes.
Not thank you. I will speak about a bit different aspect of business climate, which characterized current situation in Ukraine. So we will speak about security as important feature of the business climate in Ukraine. But when we talking, first of all, what does it mean, like a security? What is the term? In terms of this study, which I would like to share with you, when we're talking about the security, we talk about first of all security as impediment to doing business based on business assessment. Also, the security is a physical security. It's also like a issue regarding to the security and some kind of a new feature of, or not usual feature of the business climate. This is labor force lack of the labor force, because it's important part of future development of Ukrainian economy and Ukrainian business. So it's a part of security, and of course it is uncertainty. I will skip the slide because it's our new rapid enterprise story, which Yevgen, based on this data, has his speech. So I would like to put your attention on the following issue, that during the whole period of observation, which we had since May 2022, we find a different shape of the business behavior. And we try to put this in a line and the different indicators and try to find something what is similar. First of all, I'm talking about long-term expectation, short-term expectation, because it's like operational. It's much more strategic development and operational activity. And we see that if at the beginning of invasion and the first part of 2023, the short-term expectation was much more about worrying. At the same time, long-term expectation was very positive. Then the situation has a change. How the situation has changed, we need first of all to see an uncertainty. In this slide, you see a 2 years perspective uncertainty, and we see that a very high level of uncertainty during 2022-2023, and then a sharp decline in the beginning of 2024, and then the level of uncertainty, long-term uncertainty, was decreasing like a step by step. So it is fact that we should take into account. When we're talking about medium-term uncertainty, this is perspective of the 6 months. Here we see again respectively high level in the first year of invasion, full-scale invasion, and then decrease a bit, and then since beginning of 2024, it's again a bit increase, and then like it's trend to down. But it is respectively low. At the same time, like expectation, so what business like expect in this respectively high level of uncertainty, we see and remember that the long-term expectation declines step by step since beginning of 2024, and this is a business expectation. So it's a number of the firm which balance between the number of the firm which expect increase of the expand of the activities and despite and in opposite decrease in the activities, and we see that overall trend is down, but even after the drop of uncertainty, we do not see significant change in the expectations. So despite of condition in which Ukrainian business operate, business became much more certain about its 2 years future, and the expectation did not become worse. So in our condition, I think it's very positive. It's a very positive fact, and this is a 6 months perspective expectation. We see that yes, despite of like a violation of certainty here. 6 months, I think it's rather like operational expectation became a bit worse, but I think it's a bit out of my today discussion. It is mostly, I think, mostly of all impacted by current economic situation. It's not like a business environment, and the same which we see about a very short term production expectations. So we see that despite of condition in which Ukrainian business work, this expectation is still, its orange line is still like a very positive. So what we find, so it is like how business behavior in different way. At the same time, we find that in the current condition there are new feature of the business climate. First of all, it is a problem with security and the problem of the personnel, which we put attention in this speech. Security as an important factor of the business environment and in principle is characteristic. In this chart, you can see the share of the business which says that this is a problem for doing business in Ukraine in one hand, and the rate which this impediment had in a list of impediment from 14 impediments. And you see that since second part of 2023, it's significantly increased in this share of this company which considers it as a problem, and also this impediment became be a part of the list, of the impediments. So maybe it is one of the problem because which impacted on a business opinion regarding the traditional impediment of the business development as a regulatory climate, taxation, etc., because it's not very high in a list of impediment. And then we try to put and make a relation between this indicator of the dangerous of work and expectation, short term and long term, and we see a quite different trend, which described by simple correlation, the relation between, without any causality, but only relation between two indicators. And we see that when we're talking about 2 years perspective expectation, the correlation between assessments, the dangerous of work, and this 2 years expectation in the period from October 2022 till December 2023, it was quite low. So it means there are no significant relation. At the same time, now when we see a whole line of our observation, and this is this part of this observation, the correlation become more significant. It's significant and increase. It's meaning that the security issue impact and taken into account by business when they plan their 2 years activities and even long-term activities. And the opposite situation we see when we analyze the 3 months expectation. Here it's opposite, the same. At the first part of our observation, at the first part of war, we see quite high correlation between expectation, short-term expectation, and dangerous to work, and then we see quite low. So it means that in their day-to-day activity, business do not take into consideration very significantly the such kind of impediment as a security issue. And in this chart, you see a relation between between the indicator which we take from our survey. This is orange. This is assessment of how the production changed month to previous month. The dark blue, this is assessment of the economic situation in the country, and the violet is assessment of the economic situation at the enterprise. And here you see a duration of the IR-alert in in a minutes in Kiev. So we take this indicator as a proxy of how dangerous it is, and we see that the more at the very high very high level of the relation at the beginning, and respectively low relation, you can see this in the chart, and as a result why our correlation is not so dramatically high or dramatically low, it's something in between. So we see that here the relation between this indicator became weaker. So it's mean that it might be mean that business start to be adopted to this security situation. But now we talk about Ukrainian business. And when we are expecting coming of a foreign investor, when we expecting of the coming of the foreign businesses, so we need to take into consideration that this way which Ukrainian business undertake during 3 years, for the foreign business, they need to do this very quickly, because at the beginning we will have the same situation as we have at the beginning of the invasion for Ukrainian business. Very low expectation for 2 years, and very high expectation for the short term. But from the foreign investor, we need a strong, far from expectation. So the security as important part of Ukrainian business climate should be taken into account by any who would like to enter and doing business in Ukraine. So I will stop.
Anna, thank you very much. The security is undoubtedly the most important issue, and that affects all of us, especially business, especially foreign business who would come in Ukraine. But it's interesting to see that in a short term, business operate not taking into account dangers. Probably as all of us, just live in the environment that we have, and people in Kharkiv living in more dangerous than Kiev, and Kiev is more dangerous than Lviv, but still we all cope somehow with that. Okay, we have a couple minutes for questions if there are any. I hope there are, but if not, I will close the floor. Please raise your hands or write in chat if it's any questions to be asked. Just silence. I do not see any raised hands, any questions written. Then thank you very much. It was insightful. We heard different aspects of the business climate in Ukraine and how we can study it further. This enterprise survey, this bureaucracy index, this focus on red tapes. They focus on security, they focus on taxation, they focus on law enforcement and general institutional strength. And I hope that this discussion will help us to move forward. Okay. Thank you very much. There are a lot of thanks in the chat. With that, I thank all presenters. I thank everybody who came on Monday, not morning, but still Monday is a difficult day usually for week planning, joining us. And I wish you safe and successful week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.